It's okay, man. There we
Hey
go.
guys, I was sitting here talking for like 5 minutes, and Parham's like, "I don't think you went live." Listen, guys, I miss you guys. I miss my TikTok folks. I'm kind of in a good mood right now because I think I'm running on adrenaline because there's so much going on outside my office. But I was saying to TikTok, I'm sorry I haven't made videos the last couple of weeks. I've just been busy. It's not that I'm out of things to say. YouTube, you got this long set waiting for you that should have been done and in a month, but I suck. But I am excited to be here with Parham today. I saw the topic. Where's Nicole? She's here. I saw the topic, and I'm super excited. For those of you new or seen us before, please like, subscribe, even consider contributing to our wimpy little Patreon, which you can do it for as little as $3 a month. So far, right now, everything's funded by us. If we get it up enough, I can turn the clinic completely over and do this 2-3 days a week. We just want it to support itself, and we want to get high quality information out there. Parham and I really have a lot of ideas for developing this part of it, and I have ideas for developing the other part of it. We want to bring some respectable guests on here for you. We want to develop some seminars, and I'm telling you, Parham is the golden nugget. Since I started doing substance abuse, I could never afford to bring Parham here because he works for a big fancy place. They're not fancy, but they're well known and well established. And now he's got a stake of that. He's just amazing in Orange County, and everyone else sucks. Okay, I'm going to get informed. Hi, Parham. Talk to us.
What's up, Doc? Thank you for the introduction. Just so everyone knows, I think I might be echoing a little bit on your side. Am I good?
I don't hear anything,
yeah,
but
I think I'm good now. Okay.
Hey, Doc, are you guys good? I got good connection today.
Yeah, it was Dr. B was here for the first 3 minutes. He was sharing very excitedly, and I said, "Hey, Doc, I don't think we're live yet." So Dr. B was talking to all the fans on YouTube with a lot of passion before we went live. But we're here right now. I am very, very excited to be here. Yeah, thank you, Rochelle. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting us know the audio is good. I'm excited for this. The staggering problem of the prison industrial complex. I mean, this is as good as it gets. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts and your point of view and your perspective on this. And I have some things to share too afterwards. And I look forward to kind of getting a nice discussion going here, because I think we can provide a perspective to some might know it, but majority of people might not be aware of the perspectives that we're going to share today. So I'm all ears, Doc.
Okay, all right. I'm a little hesitant to share my thoughts on all of this, but for those of you here and listening, and if there's any of my patients that are out there that have seen me and I've treated over the years, what I'm going to say right now, I want to make sure everyone understands there's no political inclination here in any way. If it turns out that my view and position sort of defines me politically, then that's what it does. But I don't even think of politics, right, left. I don't think of any of those things that way. So that's number one. Number two, as I said, clinically, if those of you on TikTok that go through all of my stuff, and those of you that have been my patients, my position in my approach to substance abuse stems from what I'm going to say here, because it's all one enchilada for me, okay? So the prison industrial complex, it is a pathological manifestation of our current social cultural disposition, no different than substance abuse, no different than gambling, no difference than hyperconsumption, no difference than the pornification of our values in society, and I don't mean that in a moralistic sense, no difference than the kind of radical rise in narcissistic trait within our society at every level. And this is at the sociological level. And each thing is interrelated and feeds to the other one. And it's also no different than the epidemic of adverse childhood events and trauma. And this all feeds from where does this come from? I'm talking about pathology that can be defined from a sociological construct for those that do that for a living. All of those things come from our economic and political constructs, which feed into manifestation on how we operate as a society. And that feeds into the psychology, mental health, and physical health of the individual. And that's at the point that Parham and I get the patient. Dostoevsky, I think it was him, said at one point, if you want to get a look at how a society values its individuals, take a look at how it treats its prisoners. Okay? And a great African-American playwright, I think it's Johnson, he once said, the black man is of no use on the streets to corporate America, but he's of use in prison. Okay? What we have right now is it's not a question of private prisons. Every element of the prison industrial complex is privatized, right? It could still be a federal prison, and it could still be a state prison, but the commissary is privatized. The medical is privatized. Every angle of it is privatized. The phone thing is privatized, talking to people. Most of the Constitution is actually thrown out the window in delivering this social institution to us. But at every level, it's privatized. And what you really end up having is no different. We have a modern slavery. It's neo-slavery, no different than a plantation. Okay, corporate America has bought into the prison system, and the powers that be can go to McDonald's or whoever and say, "Look, dude, you don't need to be out of the country to save money. Come over here, okay? We're going to give you 50 grand a year." These are the absolute perfect ideal workforce for the theoretical concept of a corporation. No sick days, no time off. There is no retirement. There is no insurance. There's no social security. You're down for 30, 40 years working in the federal system. I think it comes out to about $28 a month, right? You get out. Not only that, you owe a whole bunch of fees for your traffic tickets, for this bullshit, child support. These very guys lobby to keep recidivism, at least at the States, over 70%. Okay? We have over 2 million people behind bars, most nonviolent offenders. If you even just consider what they do with the phone thing, and these companies are all out there, or you could see them, the exuberant charges they have for these guys using the phone. Well, think about it. Go back to your aces, right? Dad's in prison. You jack up those prices. You're working to cut him off from a relationship with his children so that those children may potentially come up healthy. Guys go into prison and they actually tell their families to write them off. Because if you ever go to a place like San Quentin or the federal system, you will see the humiliating affair that wives kids have to go through to see their parents. Some people say the system is broken. I say it's doing exactly what it was meant to do. It's a controlled social environment and a workforce for a system that's promoting, again, really this degenerate, individualized delusion of people that completely goes against everything that social theory and the idea of creating meaning in yourself to be able to avoid substance abuse, anxiety, depression, suicides. And this system just feeds it. And in fact, it has become so overwhelming, as I said, it becomes part of your popular culture, right? What is that show called? Lockup. Okay, you get that. Everybody, it's cool to have been in prison. There's nothing cool about going to prison. In addition, something people don't think about, most of these guys don't get a jury by trial because of the defunct system of whatever it's called, they negotiate, I'm not going to do this to you. This is about meeting quotas. It's not about punishment, and it's not about rehabilitation. And this itself creates loneliness, isolation, adverse childhood. There's so much to talk about here, but it feeds into our substance abuse culture as well. And one last thing, the conditions in some of these places, you go to the maximum security place in Colorado, I forgot what it's called. Some of these, this is just basically torture chambers, sensory deprivation, making it very difficult for people to cut off from families. Well, if I was in there and if I was in segregation, at the turn of the last century, we showed that it does nothing for the person to be in isolation 23 hours a day after a certain period of time. And the damages are post-traumatic, right? You want this guy as your neighbor? No, this just kind of feeds into and creates a system where and there's no conspiracy. The letter is right there on the wall, writings on the wall for someone to make money, and we wonder why there's substance abuse. Those are my thoughts on the prison industrial complex in brief.
Oh man, doctor, that was so good. I thank you for that, for drawing such a comprehensive, web or net, you want to call it, on something that is so. We see it all the time, but a lot of people might not know about it. So a few things that I want to touch about. Some of the statistics you shared, that you're right. Recidivism is actually 78 to 82% in federal prison systems. That's an actual statistic. The 2 million is 2.2 million people behind bars in the United States. The U.S. makes up 5% of the world's population, but houses 25% of the world's inmates. You talked about the slavery analogy. The African-American population is 13.6% of the United States and houses 50% of the inmates behind bars. So there is a significant value, it seems, there to the corporate individuals, because prisons are private. There's a private sector, man. Whether they get contracted, these private companies get contracted by the government, it's still a private business and it's ran accordingly. There are phrases they use, my friends, called heads and beds. They want to make sure that there's a certain number of heads inside the bed on a regular basis. And where it comes for me is, this is an addiction channel. So most people here, there's some type of an addiction that they're personally going through. They know someone going through, maybe they work in the field. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, the United States started this thing, as we know, called the war on drugs, right? So this is a Nixonian thing. At the time, there were people, and by the way, just so everybody knows, I am very non-political like Dr. B. None of the things that I'm sharing right now comes from a political stance. It comes from information, and it comes from research, and it comes from watching what's happened to human beings over an extended period of time. So there's no political bias that I have here. But during the late 60s and early 70s, there were two populations. One of them was the anti-war kind of group, and the second one was the African-American group. And these people were kind of on opposing sides of the political spectrum, if you will, and any disruption in those individuals would have caused disruptions in the voting machine. So the war on drugs got initiated for hippies, if you will, the anti-war people, the all the marijuana laws, and then all of a sudden the heroin addicts were usually African Americans that were living in very poverty cities, kind of like the Baltimores of the world, if you will. And all of these, the wars on drugs, it started. And the guise of the war on drugs was that it was going after the kingpins. It was going after where the drug sources are coming from, when the data and research shows that 88% of all arrests were regular drug users. Right? It had nothing to do with the kingpins. It had to do with human beings that were using substances to deal with their mental health, to deal with their living situations, to deal with the way that they were, the hand they were dealt, the adverse childhood experiences. And there is, I've heard the most profound thing I heard is you can't have a war on an inanimate object, right? Drugs are inanimate objects. So there is no war on drugs. There is a war on drug addicts, right? It's a war on human beings that tend to use drugs. And if you look at our prison system, it's saturated. It's actually overflowing with human beings that are using substances to deal with psychological and emotional and social impairments that have been caused to them because of the circumstances they've had. And also in the 80s at some point, I think you might know this better, Doc, but the mental health initiative that happened, that they removed all types of government funding for mental health support. And this happened in Los Angeles. Overnight, the mental health facilities shut down, and whoever was living in those places getting support was literally sent off into the streets. They just went and they dropped them off in the middle of the street. And right now, I know in the city of Los Angeles, a lot of the county jails and those systems, that's where the mentally ill get housed if they're not on the streets, right? So the prison industrial complex is also responsible for housing individuals with mental health issues. And here's the kicker. A lot of those systems don't allow them to take the medication that they need for their mental illness, right? A lot of their yards don't allow them to take this. So talk about treating people in an inhumane way. Not only do you take somebody that's mentally ill, that needs medication to be able to just cope with life, and you say, we're going to put you on this prison yard and you can't take the medication you need. And that is probably the most inhumane way you can deal with mental illness, I think, in my perspective as a mental health clinician. So those are some of the things that I wanted to touch on.
Oh, that's absolutely. Broken law, I'll get you on. I just want to add something Parham said. You take these urban centers, you deindustrialize, okay, and take away the jobs, and you are pushing that population into illegal activities to survive. And you know what? You end up carting them off to jails and prisons, or you push them into substance abuse. And the same thing happened after the Ford 1914 Drug Act, because when that psychopath came in, and it wasn't DEA, it was called something else, and he took over, there was thousands and thousands of functional addicts going to the clinic, taking care of their issue, managing their households, working every day. You yanked all of that. These guys got pushed into the streets, and then they all ended up behind bars. Same thing. So should we take broken law, Parham?
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
Hi.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, we did.
Sorry, I don't really want to turn on my camera, but I really want to thank you guys.
Sure.
I know you guys have a different topic going on, but I came across your stream and I had been going through hell. I had a prescription for alprazolam that I've been taking for 5 years now. It was at 4 milligrams, but I also was buying off the street, and I was taking approximately maybe 5 to 6 milligrams a day. And I've been successful in the last maybe 4 months, tapering down to 3.75 off the 6 milligrams. And that's just from the destigmatization after coming across your stream. So I'm really thankful that I came across your stream, and it's been hell, don't get me wrong, but it's like everyone was just telling me, oh, just drop it like that, like it's nothing. And it's difficult. It's like walking in and you feel like you're just a mouse within a lion, or excuse me, you feel like a mice in a lion's mouth, and you're just getting swallowed. But like I said, I'm very thankful to you guys, because I've been able to get down to where my prescription's supposed to be, and hopefully I'm just going to be able to completely, at some point get off of this medication, because I think it was probably the worst decision I ever made. Again, it's been pretty bad.
We appreciate that, Broken Law. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions, and we love it when we hear that. But right now, the prescription you're getting is from a doctor, right?
Psychiatrist, yes.
Yeah. So just absolutely be really, if you're going to taper down, let him know and make sure he does it nice and slow over protracted necessary time. Keep coming on and keep Parham and I updated on everything that's going on. We love it that we can be of support. Parham, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Broken Law, for coming up here and thanking us. But I do want you to know that your experience matters. And it's not just that it matters for us, because it really does. But there are so many people that struggle with benzodiazepine withdrawal and the tapering and that whole experience. You just gave so many people some hope, man, because there's people that they don't think they can get to where you got to in a few months. It's just such a difficult, challenging process that they see no hope. So please come back if you can and let us know how the withdrawal continues to go, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Just let us know, keep us in the loop, because I promise you, not only are you helping yourself and helping us, but you're helping all these people from all over the world that you may or may not know,
I really have to say that I do not have that great of a communication with my psychiatrist, and he wants things done in a certain way, but I have really bad post-traumatic stress disorder. And it was only after watching your videos and being able to come on one of the streams where you were talking about how people were tapering, and it was supposed to be a slower process, like a 0.25, but my body couldn't handle that amount of stress. So I was literally going out to the street and purchasing extra Xanax just so I could, in my mind, so I could be safe. And then every day or every 2 weeks, I would just cut it off, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, until I'm finally now down to 3.75. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been hell, but I'm functioning at this point. And with the PTSD and agoraphobia, I'm really thankful to you guys. I really want you to know that I appreciate what you guys are doing, and keep doing it, because it's made a hell of a difference in my life.
That's awesome.
Our pleasure. You sound like I know you, but maybe I don't. What state do you live in? Do you live in Detroit?
No, Florida. I live in Florida, Miami.
Oh,
it's pretty bad down here though. And for anyone, if anyone's watching, do not go and purchase anything on the street right now. It's fucking horrible. I'm sorry, I don't mean to curse, but it's actually probably one of the worst things you can do, because I've gone through some really bad experiences, and that's what really made me put forth the effort. But all of the research that I was doing was just everything was just bad. It's just from suggestions to cold turkey to this, that, until I finally found your channel, and it was, this is a slow process. It's tenacious, it's tedious. You have to have tenacity to do it. And if you want it bad enough, you'll definitely get it. And I want to get off of it. I feel like the cure is worse than the disease, if that makes any sense, because the antidepressants don't do anything for me. They do nothing.
Parham's Broken Law just brought a thing that I will eventually got so many videos of. Have you heard of the term psychonaut on the internet? I think it's called psychonaut.
No.
So have you heard of it, Broken Law?
No, sir.
Yeah. So essentially, because of the massive flood, and you're going to probably at some point in the future run into this, Parham. It's found in the research literature, but that is the colloquial term used out in the drug world. Because of the massive influx, depending on time, where, and whatever, of synthetic drugs, whether it's cathinones, benzos, opiates, and then cannabis group. And because of the rapid cycling of these drugs, it's difficult to pick one drug and evaluate it for its abuse potential, morbidity, and mortality, all the issues that come with it. And so one of the things that has happened as an offshoot of that is you get these guys on the internet that are doing drugs, not to be. The claim, the thought, the position is this is a cognitively inclined experimenter who is going to give you feedback. And for example, that guy from Vice would be one of those, right? Kind of guys, except he's really big. And, when he was describing it's really bad with the pressed benzos, it is. And the people are getting information from a lot of these psychonauts, which I have to do a lot more research on. They're pretty smart guys. Some of them have some chemistry background, like the guy from Vice. But at the same time, this can be very dangerous and have very negative outcomes and consequences. Broken Law, thank you for giving us that feedback, and we're here for you, brother.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And by the way, just for the viewers, so you know, I wasn't taking it to get. I don't know the exact term that I'm trying to say, but I wasn't overshooting my prescription to get high or to abuse it. It was just to stay at a form of normalcy. So when my psychiatrist wouldn't up the dose, because there's a law in Florida that basically they don't want you to go over 4 milligrams, and I have an adverse effect to Klonopin, I just naturally had to seek it out. But let me tell you that as of recent, I went to someone well, not recent, but I mean before the taper, when I went to purchase alprazolam from someone and they were showing me that this was a prescription, whatever the case was, it wasn't, because I have a very bad what's the word when you're very, like, opiates in general don't hit me like in a good way. I have an adverse effects to a lot of drugs. And let me tell you that I popped one of these pills thinking that I was going to get a calming, soothing effect just to like normalize. And it was the complete opposite, a horrible, just an atrocious experience. So with that being stated, I'm super happy at where I'm at. Hopefully I can get off of it and then try to figure out other ways of, maintaining my stability, because like I said, I have really bad PTSD and agoraphobia, so it's kind of like a double whammy. But thank you guys, I really do appreciate it, because otherwise I would have just, I don't know, I was at the point where I was just bound to give up. I just wanted to say fuck it, I didn't want to even be here. And then I'm at a way better point, and it's really thanks to you guys. So once again, blessed. Anyone who's watching, it's a matter of patience, and you're in the right track, and you're on the right channel.
Yeah, come on and keep us updated, man. It's good to hear about your story.
You have a good one. And sorry to interrupt. I know you guys are on a different topic, but I just wanted to tell you, because
we take all comers, man.
Have a good one, man. Thank you.
Take care.
Cool.
Cool kid. He sounds so familiar. Florida. Back to prison industrial complex. I think you were saying something about him.
No, man. I just kind of I was pretty much talking about how the priority of that complex is to ensure that the occupancy of their beds and all of the new buildings that are constantly being created are their shareholders and the investors, and if you will, are happy with the return on their investment. So when you're dealing with human beings in that model, that means that human beings at some point are going to start being treated like commodities and not like people that have moms and dads and upbringings and traumas and stories and all that kind of stuff. And it dehumanizes them. Actually, they just become numbers, as we know. And I mean, that really is what happens. But those numbers take a different meaning, in my opinion. And I do think it's a really inhumane way of treating people. Now, people might say, hey, if someone commits crimes, they deserve to be behind bars. Statistics says only 9 to 10% of the total prison population is actually of the violent, offenders, or the ones that are committing those crimes that you see in the CSIs and the crimes that most people in society have a strong stance against. The rest, man, they're either addicted to drugs and alcohol, they have substance abuse issues, they have a lot of PTSD, complex PTSD, they have a lot of trauma, they had no economical support, they have no way out. I mean, I'm talking about these are people that need help. And locking people up behind bars is not helping them. And you wonder why they come back into society and they want to go right back in, because they feel safe inside of prison. They know what they get. There's certainty. Their basic needs are met. And when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, their basic needs, which is their food and their shelter and their safety and all that kind of stuff like that, it's met for them. So, and also our society doesn't make it easier for people coming out of prison to re-engage into the community, because these things called probation officers and parole officers and records, and when you fill out job applications and you have to check little boxes talking about what you've done and what you haven't done, even though they say they cannot discriminate based on your disclosure of your misdemeanor or your felony, they can say they gave the job to someone else for another reason, right? So there's a lot of barriers to reintegration into society that we have in the U.S.
I mean, it's insane, and like I said, in the same way that these corporations lobby and write the laws, creating high rates of recidivism. In fact, I forgot what they're called. The big one that trades on New York Stock Exchange, something's Prison Centers of America or whatever. They trade. The stock goes up and down based on the number of beds filled. That's kind of gross. And on their website, at one point, I remember seeing something years ago. They were appealing to investors on that part of their social media campaign website. And it literally said, recidivism is high, business is good. And I'm like looking at this, and I'm like, this is 21st century United States of America. Is this real? And then I go back and think about what Dostoevsky said. If you want to evaluate a culture and how it looks at its citizens or its population or its people or its society, look at how it treats the most marginalized group, the prisoners. And it's just disturbing as hell. I mean, why are these guys writing? It's like a long time ago, I used to know some COs. I used to know a lot of them because I took care of a lot of these prisoners. And these guys would have conventions to lobby for 3 strikes. And I'm like, and again, this is nothing against all COs, but I was actually at that time dating this guy's sister or whatever, and him and his wife were both COs. And these two were idiots. And I was like, you're an idiot. You don't even know what the 3-strike law is. I mean, why are you going down there? And it was just crazy to me. What's interesting about all of this is, I broke this down, and everyone, Emil Durkheim, right? A lot of my positions come from the sociologist Emil Durkheim, and on his book on suicide. I think me and Parham may have discussed this before. And Emil Durkheim is a sociologist, turn of the 20th century, I believe, French. And the book on suicide, his claim to fame is he is the first one that formalized social analysis and construct, meaning he introduced statistical data. And the book and the work that he did it with, it was on suicide. And in there, the idea of meaning and the idea of disconnectedness comes, and it really evolves and manifests into suicide, anxiety, depression, and substance abuse. And that is sort of what set me off on the journey of concepts of harm reduction, trauma-informed care, a patient-centered approach with substance abuse, and then we're starting to see all the dots. But it's a nightmare. And I don't know, what can I do? Hey, guys, come on and get up here. There was somebody else on. Ask us some questions. You guys all hang out and chat on the side. So that's how I got on all this, Parham. And
I do have, in California at least, I mean, other states have it too, but there's a program I know that it's kind of like alternative sentencing, and it's kind of in lieu of going to jail. We have this thing in California called, for example, drug court or DUI court, right? I know it exists in other states too. But, you know, I used to be a DUI counselor, and I used to work in court-ordered counseling and stuff like that. And some of the clients would come in, and instead of going to jail on their second or third DUI, they would get accepted into this thing called DUI court. And I remember DUI court for them, so they don't have a driver's license. They would have to take public transportation, take the bus to and from the DUI court. And if they were 1 minute late to anything, they would get sanctioned and have to stay the night in jail. And if they also get sanctioned, they would have to go to the beginning of the phase that they were in. It was like a 4-phase system. And also, you know, the first week they had to be there 4 times a week, the first month, the first phase. Then it was like 3 times a week, 2 times a week, 1 time a week. If you screw up any of those, you get pushed back to the beginning. And I remember people literally would come to me and say, hey, I would rather go to jail than try to complete this program, because it is the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. And sometimes, you know, they would have to take a urine analysis testing. Without alcohol in their system, they can get it diluted, which could be based on what you ate and what they don't even tell you what it is. And if you don't even have alcohol in your system, but your urine comes back diluted, and that counts as a dirty, and you go to jail that night, and you get pushed back to the beginning of the phase. So I remember just listening to these people talking about this program that on surface sounds so wonderful, and it's helped some people out, don't get me wrong. But the failure rate was like 90% of people that come through this thing just fail miserably because they can't sustain the difficulties of how hard that program is. And that goes back to the recidivism stuff we're talking about. The reason why the recidivism rate's so high is because look at that program. I mean, you know, good luck trying to finish that. And I've always heard some people say, thank God for DUI court, for drug court, it saved my life. But I've heard the opposite story oftentimes too.
Yeah, and along with that, a lot of these long-term guys, you know, again, they're making whatever it is, a buck a day or something like that. And, you know, the pennies on the dollar. In addition, they're coming out owing thousands of dollars in fines. It's insane. You know, you've done 30 years, 40-year run, and you've been working 40 hours a week, and you got child support, you got all these fines. You're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, I have a difficult time imagining how these things make it into public policy. And it shows you that we as a society fell asleep at the wheel a long time ago.
Yep.
And
here's an example right here, Doc. I just want you to see what I just shared about. I wasn't making that stuff up, right? So there's a person named Devin on the side said, that happened to me twice while on diversion. They tried to tell me urine was diluted when I was clean as a whistle. Ended up having to do 90 days because of that. This is what I'm talking about. Like, the system is so broken that an individual who's testing, who knows they're clean, and I believe this person, by the way, because I've seen it thousands of times, that they had to do 90 days because they got violated for a diluted test, which I've heard could be for anything. It could just be your potassium levels being off based on what you ate. You know, it's like it's very sensitive how it comes off as a diluted. It doesn't mean you're trying to flush out your piss or anything like that. It was just it has these little sensitive things, and they can't tell you why. They just say, sorry, it's diluted. Go spend the night in jail. So this person got violated a couple times. It doesn't make sense.
It's almost like pushing him not to drink water during the day, just so he stays out of jail and gets dehydrated. Right?
Yeah, people would start to get like really problems with their urination and stuff like that because they were so they were so like anxious and terrified of like going to the bathroom and screwing it up that it would start to cause like urology problems in them. Like,
literally. Absolutely. Hey, Lawrence just came back. All right, let's put Lawrence up.
Sure.
How you doing, guys?
Hi, Lawrence. How are you?
Not too bad. First of all, I'll say, Parham, I haven't had a chance to call you. I started a new job, and it's been hectic. But
we did back and forth this time, though.
Yes, we did. We had a little chat, and I appreciate you getting back to me. But the taper's going fine. I'm just gonna keep rolling with it. So I don't think I'll need to call, but I just wanted to check in with you guys tonight and let you know that. But on this topic, it's almost like this is a rough society we live in. And it's almost like they're just waiting for anyone to screw up, and then they're going to make your life a living hell and make you jump through all these hoops. And a lot of people just aren't up to the task for various reasons, addictions or abuse or trauma, right? So I don't know who's listening tonight, but do everything you can to stay the hell out of the criminal justice system, because it is brutal. I worked in mental health for 16 years. I was a frontline worker, and we occasionally have to go into the prisons and deal with the odd client, right? And boy, once you switch from the mental health system into the prison industrial complex, you're in for a nightmare. So this is a great topic, you know, even if it's just to warn a few people tonight, you know, just do everything you can to stay out of it, away from it. And you know what? When I was young and foolish and drinking, I got into a bit of a scuffle with some cops, and they threw me in the drunk tank for the night, right? Well, that was the last night I will ever do. I can't even imagine, like I can't even describe the helpless feeling of being in a cage and not being able to do anything. It's horrible. I told myself that night, I was about 19, I will never ever go back to prison again. I will live my life in such a way that there will be absolutely no possibility for that happening. That's how horrible it was. That's just one night, right? So anyway, great topic. Awesome, very important topic. It's a nightmare. That the complex is a nightmare because it's a business. It's a business.
Yes. And then thank you for the feedback. Don't get off. I want Parham, but you said something, and I didn't really say it before, but you nailed it. Okay, so we've created a monster that you do not want to dance with. Okay, because if we look, especially after Bush 2 first term and up. The number of laws that have been added to the books that can land you in jail or prison are staggering. Nobody knows what's legal and illegal in some ways, and that has consequences and it has interpretation. Right? It's a prison society, and this system, you know. Even to the extent where there's people sue each other, civil cases, and the family courts. I can't imagine anybody with any common sense that wants to be in this system because why do you want a system that itself has so much, and this isn't saying bad about people in it, even the judges, you know, everybody's trying to do the best they can. The judges are thrown these massive loads of cases and they're just pushing it through, right? So, you know, why does any autonomous, free will thinking human being want to be in the system in any way, shape, and form to even be known by the system? Have the system tell you what to do, and all you got to do is look around you. The only one, their attorneys, and they're not bad guys either. Their attorneys are the only ones that make any money out of this, and we all lose. And you know what? The way you're describing it, great advice. Do whatever you can to stay out of the system in any way, shape, or form. I love it.
Absolutely. It's just looking for customers, and you got to be smart these days and stay the heck away from it. Anyway, just wanted to drop in and say hello and mention a few things, a few comments. You know, you guys are, you know, I sometimes get tired of this whole digital world and like everything's on, a lot of life is online now. But when I see a couple of guys like you working a channel and doing what you're doing, man, you're a gift, because like I said, I worked in mental health many years, and there were some people that just were going for the paycheck. They didn't care. They just medicated the hell out of everybody so they would have a good shift, right? But you guys, the only thing I'm a little concerned about, if you care too much, you got to be careful, because you can burn out, right? You can get, and I burned out, and I was burned out and didn't even know it. And it took me 2 years to get back on my feet. Like I was talking insomnia, depression, anxiety, 2 full years to get back to normal. So all I can say, Parham and Dr. B, is you're doing wonderful work, but I hope you also have some balance in your lives so you can go out and have some fun and leave this stuff, because it gets pretty heavy, right? It can get very heavy. So you got to have a release valve. So don't do what I did, which was take it all home with me, right? I paid for it. Anyway, I'll close on that note. I really appreciate you guys, and whoever's listening, you guys got this channel is a real gift. So have a great night, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you, Lawrence. We love that feedback, and it goes to our hearts.
Have a good night, gents.
Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye. Parham, what do you think about Lawrence's comment on burnout? Let me hear what you have to say, and then I'll give some feedback. It's a great advice, but
of course. Well, let me tell everybody here. It's like, so there's something called vicarious trauma. Okay. So what vicarious trauma is, it's kind of like secondhand trauma. So when people like Dr. B and myself are working in the field of mental health and addictions, we are constantly throughout the day exposed to other human beings' traumatic life experiences, what they're going through. Nobody ever comes to Dr. B's office or my office on a winning streak, right? Nobody's coming in there, hey, my life is good, I can't wait to see you guys. They're usually coming in there with a lot of pain. And just like secondhand smoke, secondhand trauma can also be picked up by the person in the environment. So kind of what happened there to our friend that was talking from Canada, Lawrence, was he didn't know it was happening to him until it was too late. But the importance of anybody that's in the field of mental health, addictions, kind of just the helping fields, he said, make sure that you care so much about other people. Make sure you take, I'll tell you this, Lawrence, I care just as much about myself as I do to other people. And if I don't do that, if I don't practice that, I'm going to be completely ineffective, and my efficacy when working with others is not going to be that high. So I make sure I prioritize myself, right? I make sure that I'm doing something every day for my mind, for my body, for my spirit. Every single day. It's the first 3 things I do, because if I don't get right with me, it's really hard for me to get right with you. And this is not something I've just picked up. I've been doing this for decades, man. It's like for the past 10 or 11, 12 years, I do this. This is my burnout prevention plan. This is how I sustain this level of energy and enthusiasm and excitement and engagement, is because I'm completely plugged in and I take care of myself, mind, body, and spirit. So it's something that I've seen other people fail to do, and that's what causes them to burn out. So I just kind of watch and observe and see what they're doing, not doing, because it gives me a blueprint of what to do.
I love that. And I'm almost embarrassed to give my feedback. That is exactly what you should do. And at 51, I just started doing that in a more expansive way. The way it's always worked for me was probably a little bit pathological, in that my background is shift work, emergency medicine, and some research, and it was brutal, the environments I worked in. But all I did was, and then getting into this, so all I did was just turn it off, turn something off so I don't get engaged. But nevertheless, things, I didn't do things right, because it certainly has an effect on all areas of my life. But most recently, and this goes to, the person that's helping me in a lot of ways now this morning was telling me, he's like, you can be, Parham, you can help me. What's that guy's name? Something LeBron, the basketball player?
LeBron James?
Yeah, LeBron James or Kobe Bryant. And he was telling me every one of those guys has coaches or trainers. And I think he was talking about LeBron James, and he was saying he spends $1 million a year on therapist, trainer. And I am just learning that the last few months, because number one, my workload is out of this world. Yet I have learned to work less than ever here. And every day, guys, and this is for all of you out there in general, whether you're dealing with substance abuse, whether you're dealing with mental health, whether it goes for everything. Every day is an opportunity to wake up and do it better, and don't do it on your own. Okay, it doesn't matter. Look, guys, a lot of people look up to me to solve a lot of very complex issues. They look up to Parham to solve a lot of complex issues. But I learned also at the same time that I need someone else to solve a lot of my own complex issues. And and going to that burnout thing, I was, recently I was like, well, there are certain things in my life that are really important to me now, and I have to be healthy to do them all. And each one depends on the other. My productivity and service to patients and clients in this channel has to do with my personal life, the growth of my practices, and my mental health. And I started, asking and getting help on how to manage what I couldn't. So really, this, and I think this applies to everything. And I think we recently talked about it with Parham. So I'm doing what Parham does now. And I really shut down and really try to enjoy my personal, private time. So I'm doing that now, Parham, because it's the only way I can survive.
Yeah, man. I mean, better today than tomorrow. So whether you found this formula at age 51, what LeBron James has found at age 36, that's all irrelevant. The important part is that today it is a part of your life and you're incorporating it, because 5 years from now, you're going to say, thank God I started it 5 years ago and I didn't wait 5 years from now. That's what I tell people all the time. So yeah, man, keep prioritizing self-care, because the world needs Dr. B. And I like having Dr. B around. So
I appreciate that. Let's either go through some of these. Hey, TikTok, you're so quiet and your numbers are so low today. I better make some videos, huh, to get you all excited again. I'll make some really good TikTok shorts here. But get on YouTube, ask questions. Let's talk about something interesting. We're talking about prison industrial complex and what a piece of work it all is. Nicole, why don't you come say hi?
There's something else with the prison industrial complex. I know when people's loved ones get incarcerated, it is a very, very emotional time for family members. And if it's the first time for those people dealing with courts and dealing with judges and dealing with someone being incarcerated, those people actually become very vulnerable and become people that can be taken advantage of and become people that are can be exploited. So the loved one of someone that goes to prison can become exploited by the powers to be and all of the different businesses and sub-businesses and all those different things that work hand in hand with the prison industrial complex.
I love that you pointed that out. It's absolutely, it's traumatic, it's scary, and you're right. I mean, you're supposed to be dealing in some senses with the state, and there's all these people, as everything's becoming privatized, that hustle and exploit these people. Yeah, I love that. There's Nicole. Hi,
hey,
Nicole.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, Nicole?
So I thought I'd come on. I've been to prison before. It sucked all around. If I can share any of that experience with you guys, I remember I was probably like 23 or 24 when I went. I had never been in trouble in my life. And they put me on probation for 3 years. This is how they get you. They set you up. So I had a raging drug addiction. And my lawyer comes to me and he says, you can either go to prison for 3 to 6 years, go on drug court, or take probation. Well, I knew I didn't want to go to prison, and I had heard all about drug court being a trick. And so I said, I'll take the probation. And so they put me on probation for 3 years. And of course, I failed every drug test. And you know how y'all were talking about people having problems with their urinary tract? I would get so nervous to go to the bathroom in front of my probation officer that I would have to push so hard. It was so bad. And she would violate me. I would go into her office, and even though I would tell her, probation officer, I'm going to fail, I've been doing methamphetamine, she didn't care. She would have me stand up and lift my leg up and look inside of me. And it was so horrible. Like, it was degrading. It was embarrassing. It was like, it made me really uncomfortable. And she did it every single time, no matter what, even if I told her the truth that I was going to fail. And so once she ended up finally violating me and sending me to prison, I was so afraid, because I had watched all these TV shows about prison, and like, I thought some girl named Big Bertha was going to come shank me the minute I walked into the prison door. But it wasn't like that at all. Every person I was locked up with was in there for drugs, simple possession. Like, it was fucking ridiculous, dude. Everybody, thieving or possession, and it always led back to some kind of drug issue. And so all the women that were in the prison, we ran the prison. The guards didn't even work. We did everything. We cooked, we cleaned, we did construction, we did laundry. The whole prison is operated by the inmates. And the guards are just paid to babysit, make sure nobody's, getting in fights or doing something illegal. But I think when I left prison, I was there for a year. They gave me a check for $50. That's how much I made while I was there, working my ass off, y'all. Seriously, they had me out in the 115, 110 degree weather, hoeing and mowing the lawn. Then one of the guards seen me and I was working, because I've always been like a real hard worker. And she said, I want you to come with me. I'm going to put you in laundry. And then I spent the rest of my time in prison doing laundry. And when I tell you guys, these washers and dryers are so big that me and two other girls could get inside the dryer, shut the heat off to the dryer, and ride in it and turn it on, and it would flip us like we were in a we were trying to have fun any way we could to make the time go by faster. But I guess I'm telling you guys all this to tell you that the people that were there were not bad people. They were people who needed help. And when I came out of there, I learned more in prison about crime than I did before I went into prison. I came out of there and I was getting high in the prison, and so all that time I spent in there, I could have been getting treatment, and I could have been getting therapy, and I could have been getting some kind of help. But instead I was in there, doing laundry for the 600 girls that were in there. And like I said, every person in there was in there for drugs or theft. Now, there was a maximum security prison where there was girls, of course, that probably had killed somebody. But the one I was in was just people who made a mistake, and went to prison for drugs. That's it.
Yep. Once you're there and you feel it and you're like, well, this is all BS. It's just a workforce for somebody.
Yes.
And nobody here is, there's bad people, but, for the most part, you're like, these are all good people with problems. These people they need jobs, they need education, they need economic revitalization of their society that they come from, or the region they come from. And then you start to really get, I'm sure, I've never been to prison, then you really get a sense that, something's not on the up and up, and it's not. Crazy. This is in Arkansas?
In Arkansas. It was called the Arkansas Department of Corrections in Pine Bluff. And you know what? One of the worst parts of being there that I remember was my parents having to come and wait 4 hours to visit me in a long line. And every Saturday, my mom and dad, they never missed a visit. And my dad reminds me of that to this day. Remember when we used to visit you every Saturday in the pen? I'm like, yes, Dad, because he's so proud of me that I'm sober and that I'm not, fucking up anymore. But that's like, he'll never forget that, and I won't either, because they would wait and they had to get patted down and everything. And then when they would get there, I remember the first time that they visited, I couldn't even hug my mom and dad. It was so hard to see my parents because they were so upset that I was there because I really just needed help. I was just sick. And I'd never committed a crime before in my life. I'd never gotten in trouble before. And you know how much meth I had on me? I had a syringe with 1 cc of methamphetamine in it, like that much in it. And I think I had it in my purse, honestly, because I just threw it in there, and me and my friend got in my car and went driving, and got pulled over. But my poor mom and dad had to go through that every Saturday. And it was horrible. It sucked. And honestly, like after I got out of prison, that is what made me realize, like, I don't ever want to go back there ever again. And so anytime I was in any kind of like felonious dealings, like shit I wasn't supposed to be doing, like I was always so much more cautious. And like, if I had to do a crime, like I would make somebody else do the part that could get me in trouble, because I did not want to go back to prison. But I think I would have been better off if I could have went to some kind of like long-term, like some kind of treatment camp or something like that, where you actually get, like, you learn about how to stay sober and get therapy services.
In fact, doing that, Rand did this study in the early 90s. I've described it before. That's a cheaper way and a more effective way to go about all of this than what we do. And in fact, in that same study, and it was geared towards cocaine, and it was in 1993 or 4. It's about 106 pages, that study. It has 4 arms. But it was clear. It said you lock people up and you attack the source, like the crops. That's the most expensive and least effective way. The cheapest and most effective way is prevention and treatment. And so at that point, we geared up putting people in prison. I mean, it's just insane. You have Rand Corporation. Who did they did it with? I think they did it with the U.S. Army, this study. It's a well-known study. I haven't read it in 20 years, so forgive me if I got a few things wrong. But you finance such a large, good, well-structured study that tells you exactly what to do, and it shows you what the least effective and most expensive thing to do is, and you do it. And I don't get that, except the last thing, there's a concept, a theoretical concept in the legal world, and it's not something all lawyers know, but the nerdy Harvard professors and stuff know, and I forgot what it's called. There's a concept, and it's a Latin term, but it basically says, if you want to understand why somebody did something, for example, a crime or whatever, look at the outcome and consequence, right? Well, the outcome and consequence is money, right? It's that simple. There's no, I can't say they're doing it to control people, but it's money, right? Okay. So we live in a pretty barbaric situation, and it makes me sad. And that's where my interest comes in all of this, and substance abuse. Yeah. No one's coming on to talk today. They're there.
Do you see Caring Pharma's questions? She says, what are our thoughts on drug court? And I'll just tell you real fast before I go. I had always heard horror stories about drug court. Where I live, it's like it's a strict program to help people who have issues with drugs and alcohol. What they do is they set you up on this system where every day they pull a color: red, green, yellow, blue, purple, whatever. And if they pull your color, you have to report immediately and take a drug screen. So you have to make sure that you have transportation at the drop of a dime. Also, you have to have gainful employment. I think they do like some kind of like group recovery classes, like to help people with their sobriety. But it's like a stricter version of probation, and then like some kind of recovery group meetings. But I think the hard part about it for a lot of people is not having transportation, not being able to, because it doesn't matter. Like if they pull your color, you have to show up within a certain amount of time to go take your analysis, and if you don't, then you get a strike. And after so many strikes, you either get a revocation. And so one of the punishments is like 30 days back in jail, or 60 days, or 90 days. And eventually, if you get so many, then you get revocated all the way back and have to go do your time that you were supposed to do, and that's why you got drug court. So to me, it was just like a trap almost, because I wasn't ready to get sober. And so I would have gotten in there and just messed up and then got put back in prison anyway.
Yeah. Parham, do you have any thoughts on drug court?
Yeah, it's very similar and parallel to DUI court that I was talking about earlier. So there's usually 4 phases in it. It's the orientation phase, and then it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And what happens is each phase has a different amount of frequency that you're required to show up to court. So for group therapy, for psychoeducation, for individual therapy, and there's urine drug screening, kind of like Nicole was talking about. And any type of a dirty test or a diluted, or even if you're a few minutes late to one of your scheduled activities, you get sanctioned, and the sanction is usually 24 hours in jail. And it also pushes you back to the beginning of the phase. So each phase is about 3 to 4 months long. If you get sanctioned at the end of the phase, you get pushed back to the beginning of the phase. And usually, we were talking earlier about DUI court, a lot of people, because of the challenges of how hard the program is, sometimes say, you know what, I'm just going to serve my time and I'm going to get back to doing what I need to do. However, some people don't have that luxury. You know, I've seen it fail more times than succeed, but I have seen success stories. I've actually been to a few graduations where they read their takeaways from the experience of finishing a drug court, getting off of probation, being usually clean and sober, whatever that means in their world. So I've been to a few of those graduations, and I've read their goodbye letters and all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you this, that for people that have children, for people that have families, for people that have a business, you know, their own business, and they just can't go to jail for an extended period of time, there is some value to it. But as we talked about earlier, the name of the game in the criminal justice system is recidivism, and the more people that get caught up and re-put back into the system is a win-win for them and a lose-lose for the individual that's struggling. So my final word on it is the idea of drug court is good because it provides alternative sentencing and it provides treatment for the offender. But the practicality of it, the practical application of drug court, is something that has so many barriers that makes it hard for most individuals enrolled in the program to successfully complete it.
Yeah. I've never really, I have so many people that run through here that have a history of drug court. So I guess it's not working that well. But like you were saying, Pam, but I think one of our organizations is getting a little more involved in that area, and it's something I'd like to go explore pretty soon here and look into it. But yeah, I don't have much thoughts on it other than knowing that it exists and kids run through it, or not even kids, adults run through it. But I don't think it's a perfect system either. Yeah.
I know Orange County has a judge named Judge Anderson. He's actually a very compassionate, really cool judge. Guy. Yeah, Judge Anderson's a great guy, and he is very, very kind and loving to the individuals struggling with addictions. He is a part of drug court, and most people that finish his program go back and say if it wasn't for Judge Anderson, they probably wouldn't be here right now. So I've seen the positives of that system too, but I have seen a lot of people fail in that system also.
Is he still on the bench?
I don't think so. This is at least, he was on the bench about 5 years ago when I was really active with it, but I've been disengaged from that whole criminal justice system.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get off here and let somebody else come up here, but I just want to say one more thing, Dr. B. To everybody that I know that's in the chat that's tapering off benzos, I'm so proud of you guys. I get maybe 10 to 12 calls a week just from people wanting to get off benzodiazepines. And I'm so proud of y'all who have started your tapers and who are coming here and listening to the information and going slow. That's amazing. And I just want you guys to know that we're here to support you. And if you need anything, you can always call the 1-800 number and I'll answer it. And if I don't answer, listen to my voicemail, get my phone number and text me. Okay. Y'all have a good night. I'll see you later, Dr. B.
Okay, Nicole, I just gave your number to someone today. And just so you know, and I should have announced this early, I got about 8 minutes because I have to go close this up. So if anyone wants to get on, including TikTok folks, which I will see you soon, I got a whole bunch of videos coming for you. Pop on here now, and I'm looking for any questions. DJ Layla P. Do we know Layla?
If it's the same Layla, I remember she might have been from Great Britain. If it's the same one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure then.
There's our buddy, the pharmacist.
There was no questions. I've been looking on the side chat. I haven't seen anything really.
Yeah, a lot of just comments.
There's people talking with each other, yeah. I saw one of your videos today. Austin told me your video on methamphetamines had a very significant spike with viewership up until something like 80, 90,000 views.
It does?
Yeah, it just happened today. It's one of your talks on meth. It was just phenomenal how much viewership it had in just 24 hours. It was really cool, man. It blew up.
Oh, I didn't know. I've been so busy. I haven't been on there, but that's good. I made a few minute videos on meth psychosis, and I have some med students in here, guys. So just so you know, I have some videos on meth psychosis, and the one I really like was the last one I made, which is separating or stimulant psychosis from agitated delirium. Again, I always want to do more and more, and I never get to it. It's a really interesting distinction, and I like that video. If anybody wants to check out a good video that describes clinical presentations and symptomology, explains what psychosis is, how it's related to axis 1 disorders, and what is delirium and what is agitated delirium. That's a good video to watch. And it also facilitates, it's actually I took clinical concepts and really made them easy to digest. And if anyone's a health student, it's also a good video to watch. And I like that one. Maybe it's that one. I don't know. But that's pretty cool.
I know someone just asked a question. It has to do with benzos, but we can answer. You have how many? 5 minutes?
Yeah, I got a couple. Are we waiting on? Are we all done?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, yeah, I'm almost done. No, I see another.
It might be a long question, but it was just I want to give some hope that it's possible. You know, as a Mary C.
Where?
I see she always comments on our videos.
Oh yeah, we'll
really
bring her on. Yeah, Mary's great. Yeah.
Yeah, she said I've been on benzos for 20 plus years. Is it possible to get off them? I mean, I know it's a very open-ended question.
Yeah, and the open-ended answer is absolutely yes. But Mary, let me throw a question at you or a thought for you. The question is not at this point. You're in a different clinical construct than. Let me put it this way. So if Joe comes up here and maybe in his case, hey, should I get on benzos for 20 years? The answer would be absolutely not. But now that you've been on benzos for 20 years, the phenomenology, the clinical phenomenology and construct of being on a benzo is a different question. So now that you've been on it for 20 years, managing it is very different. And it is possible that you may need to really, you can definitely get the dose reduced and potentially fully get off of them. but I want you to consider why you're asking that question. Are you worried about, you see what I'm saying? For that guy that's not on it and doesn't really need it, I'm gonna say, dude, absolutely don't get on it. But you've been on it for 20 years, so it's a different question. You have different physiological response. You have different receptor architecture. You have different neurotransmitters that are working differently with all of the other neurotransmitters, and GABA is a very complex system. And so the question and the outcome is different. And that's what I want you to think about. Okay, Mary? I hope that helps.
Yeah, she had a brief follow-up, which I don't even know if we have the time to answer this, but she just said my doctors don't want to prescribe me anymore. So it's her doctor's taking her off of it.
Just cutting you off cold turkey? Damn.
We could get Mary. Mary, come back next week, Monday, 5:00. We want you on and talking to us.
Yeah, I know Mary. She always puts great comments.
Yeah, she does. I know she does. Yeah, I always respond to her.
Yeah, Mary, come on next week and talk to us. And then there's our buddy Cash. I think he talked to us last week. Where is he? Where'd he go? All of you will get me. Well, I just saw another comment from him. I thought he had a question. No. Okay. So I am going to wind down. This was a lot of fun. The topic of the prison industrial complex and its sort of relationship to substance abuse in general in a society. I loved it. And any parting words, Parham?
No, man, this was great. If you're just catching the tail end of this, go ahead and watch the first few minutes. Dr. B really lays out something that I was fascinated in. And I talked about a few real life statistics and real numbers and truths that exist from the origin of the prison industrial complex to where we are today. So it was really educational, informational. And like one of our callers said, hey, the best thing to do is just not get caught up in the system. You know, easier said than done, but that is the really simple, well advice. Just do whatever you can to get not caught up in the system. And yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you so much for another Monday with us. And we look forward to coming back again next week, same time, same place.
Yeah, and hang in there, guys. I'm many videos behind on both channels. TikTok, same with you guys. I will get a whole bunch out. I'm having a hard time managing my time. And that's it, guys. Parham, thanks so much for coming on. And let's do this soon next week. Okay, bye, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let me say bye to TikTok. He is doing amazing now. Fantastic. Guys, I'll see you soon. Go on the channel and check it out, okay? I'll talk to you guys soon on TikTok. Okay. And same with you guys on YouTube. Let me get off of there.